So we're launching today a review of social and emotional learning skills for life and work. There are 3 reports which comprise a huge amount of research undertaken over the last few months. The first report is really about why social and emotional skills are so important. I need to say a little word about what we mean by social and emotional skills. The Department for Education at the moment is talking a lot about character. People in public health talk about resilience. The Education Endowment Foundation and others talk about non-cognitive skills. These are all broadly similar words for the same things. They're skills, features of identity, features of how people think about themselves, capability to interact with others, self-regulate and manage your feelings as you go through life. There are a range of different ways of defining and measuring these things, but we think they're very, very important to intergenerational change, which is why we've done this review. The first review was a literature review of the importance of those sorts of skills in predicting long-term outcomes that people care about. And across the board, we find that there are some things for which cognitive skills have more predictive power. If you're looking at labour market outcomes, on the whole, cognitive skills have more predictive power, but for most other outcomes, social emotional skills are as or more predictive. And even for labour market outcomes, skills of self-regulation and other social emotional skills are important above and beyond cognitive skills in predicting outcomes. So they clearly matter. They matter for the things people care about, and they matter for the things that drive demand on government services and on which are causing problems for local areas in managing that demand. So the second review is about the programs that are existing in the UK at the moment that attempt to improve these skills or prevent bad levels of skill. And what we find is there are lots of programs available in the UK now that have very strong evidence of effectiveness. That's particularly true in schools. In the youth sector, it's more challenging. There's a lot of emerging evidence, but the tradition of evaluation is weaker in the youth sector, and it's only now that we're seeing very strong studies of impact. We'll find the effectiveness of that over the next few months and years. There's a lot of promising evidence, but there's very little that is very, very robust in terms of having good comparison groups and good measurement. But nonetheless, it's clear from the international evidence that in the youth sector, as well as in schools, there are things that youth workers, teachers, practitioners of all kinds, and families and children and communities can do that will help children improve their social and emotional skills. The third component of this review was a deep dive into the way current policy and practice is functioning across the country. This was a deep dive in the sense that it was going to the front line to get the views of people working on the issue and of children and families rather than an analysis of longitudinal data. It was qualitative work. We haven't looked at every environment in which social and emotional skills work is happening, but it was a deep dive to try and understand how families and children and practitioners and policymakers are thinking about the challenge. What comes out very clearly from the third report is that the landscape is very variable. There isn't common agreement about how to define these skills, about what they mean, how to measure them. There isn't a lot of evaluation in practice, either in schools or in the youth sector, and that's an area that needs a lot more work. The third report is really important in helping us think about the policy landscape. There's a strong view from schools that we don't need another layer of accountability. This is about helping people learn about what works. We think this review is timely going into an election to remind people that, good as it is that the Secretary of State for Education has emphasised character as a theme, momentum must be kept up on this agenda. We also don't just think it's an issue for the Education Department. We think this is true and important across government. It's important for the outcomes of the Health Department. It's important for the outcomes of business in terms of the importance of social and emotional skills in enhancing work and business capability. It's important for the Cabinet Office, which leads on youth policy. It's important for the Home Office, which is trying to prevent crime. For all of these policy areas, these skills are really important. And in the current framework of the way government is approaching it, we're underinvesting in these skills. And that's the primary issue, is we need to invest more in the opportunities that enable children and young people to enhance these capabilities.